Hey, everybody, it's Michele here. I'm so excited to see our guest, Michele Bolton, and you're going to learn a little bit more about Michele in a few minutes. This is a second part of my series on how to ignite your confidence and have more fun in your job or career. One of the reasons why I do this is because I completely believe it is so important for us as women to be confident, to step into our courage, and to really be committed to that. Throughout my life, I've had a lot of challenges, as most of us do. And I'll never forget the one time, actually, a few times in my life where having to face my own self in the mirror, having felt rejected. Um, my first husband and I split up. My son was barely 1 year old. And I'll never forget feeling, um, besides hurt, but very rejected. And I never really remembered ever having a feeling like that. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I wasn't sure where to go. Thank goodness I have an amazing family and I have great friends. And while they were a great support, what really got me through a lot of those challenging times was a personal journey of growth and learning to take care of myself, learning to figure out what do I really need in order to feel like I could make a difference for myself, my son. And as crazy as this sounds to a lot of people, I love working. I won't say always. I was quite a diva when I was a teenager. I sunbathed when my dad wanted me to cut the grass. However, at some point I realized that there was something for me in working, and I always chose working with people, making a difference. I love it. And to this day, when a lot of women my age are starting to think about retiring, I feel like I've just gotten started. And I feel like there's so much more for me to be doing. And so many of my clients are in the same boat. Maybe their kids are grown, they're not sure what they're doing anymore. And so they want something different. They've lost that kind of loving feeling for what they're doing. They know that there's something better or different, but they're not quite sure how to get there. So I've made it my mission to do whatever I can to uplift, to share, to provide coaching and strategies and simple tools to go from, maybe you're feeling stuck and frustrated to feeling inspired and empowered. And so that's a little bit about me. And when I invited you, Michele, to come and speak tonight, I was so moved by your story, and I want to say blown away by the level of commitment that you show every day in order to give people something that they can use in order to make their lives easier when it comes to the medical information. And I'm going to leave it at that because obviously it's your story, you can tell it way better than I can. But it was one of those inspiring stories where for me too, I want to absorb your courage and feel the commitment that you have, because those are the things that are going to get us to do what we really need to and want to do.
Yeah, no, thank you, Michele. That's so sweet. And it's interesting to find another Michele with only one L
Yes, doesn't
in their
happen
name
very
because
often.
I always have the two L's spelt, and often I thought, oh, should I change the spelling of my name? And I'm like, no, I'm good. But no, thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it being with you tonight. And it really is an important topic for everybody, but I think women really struggle with this because we're always doing for everyone else. And we forget to think about ourselves because we're so busy caring for everyone else. And that's when our cup empties out and we're a little lost. So my story began back in my early 20s. I had a lot of health issues, very, very difficult time. After I had my daughter, I wanted to get pregnant again and ended up with emergency surgery and a partial hysterectomy at 23 years old. So I was very young, and that's an age where, you're living and loving your life and thinking, I'm young, I'm healthy, nothing's wrong with me, I'm good to go. But it's really interesting how your body can do some tricks on you and play tricks, and things happen when you least expect it, and it changes the course of your life in a big way. So, people, there's no age as to when illness can hit you. Absolutely zero. And, there's childhood illnesses, there's, seniors illnesses, but there's also illnesses as we go through life. And unfortunately, mine were in a series of events over, I want to say it started when after my daughter, I had her at 21, and 23, 25, I had another emergency surgery, full hysterectomy at that point. They had to take everything. And within a month of getting out of hospital, my father died from a massive heart attack.
Mm.
And that was really hard for our entire family. It was sudden, completely unexpected. He was very young, early 50s. So, you don't expect that either, right? And then after my father died, then a couple of years after that, I think 2 years after that, I ended up in another emergency surgery with a gallbladder removal. So I couldn't even drink water at the time. So they took out the gallbladder. And then I went on again and healed up from that. And within about 3 years, when I was in my 30s, I was working out and eating properly, doing all those great things, and ended up with what I thought at the time was bronchitis or just a severe chest cold, because I couldn't get my breath when I climbed a flight of stairs. And I had been working out all the time. So I knew I was in good shape, but I thought, why am I not getting better? Why am I not getting stronger? And because our bodies really are amazing machines. And I realized that after going through those surgeries, just how amazing our bodies are if we take care of them. So when I couldn't, climb a flight of stairs the one night, I said, I have to go to the doctor. There's something going on here. I think I need some antibiotics or something. So I went in, and the doctor said, well, Michele, I think, you've got a heart murmur, so we want to do a chest x-ray. So I said, okay. So they took me in and did a chest x-ray, and within about 15 minutes, he came back and said, well, the three of us feel you may have Hodgkin's disease. And I just said, well, what's that? I had no idea. And he said, cancer. And I was obviously in shock, did not expect that diagnosis. And he said, come here, I want to show you something. And I said, okay. So he took me in the x-ray room and showed me the x-ray. And the x-ray was completely white.
Whoa.
And he just said, I should be able to see. I just said, what is that? He said, that is a tumor. And I should be able to see your heart, and I should be able to see your lungs and any other organs that should be in there. And he said, I can't see anything. This tumor is absolutely everywhere. So basically, he referred me to a specialist, and I went home that night and had to tell my husband at the time, and my daughter, who was 9, picked her up from the bus and went up to the house and asked her to go out on the front porch. I said, I need to talk to your dad for a few minutes. So she's like, okay. And out she goes onto the front porch. And I had the front window open about, I don't know, an inch or two. I didn't think twice of that. And I said, I need a drink. So he poured me, a couple shots of whiskey, and I knocked that back. And I just kind of stood there in shock, because initially when you go in for what you think is a chest cold, and, assuming you need antibiotics and you're good to go, to a diagnosis of that is really, it's quite surreal. You don't even know what to think at that point. So I just said, I'm not ready to die. And of course, my daughter Amanda heard that and she comes racing into the house and, really upset, of course. And you lied to me, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, we need to talk. I said, mommy's really sick, and I'm going to have to, go see another doctor and have surgery. So, things went on and moved forward. And I met with Dr. Inculet, Richard Inculet here in London. And when he met with me and he had reviewed the x-ray, he just said, we're going to have to do open heart surgery for you. And I said, well, I'm going to have a big scar, right? This is a big concern at the time because I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
And, I had been through a number of surgeries, and I don't want to say you become numb from that, but in a way it was like, okay, I got through the other ones, and I guess I have to have another one. And I didn't think much of it until he said, no, I don't think you understand, Michele. He said, that's the least of your worries. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he said, I don't know if I can save you. And I'm like, excuse me. And I start crying, of course. And he said, this tumor is everywhere. It is engulfed your entire chest cavity. And I don't know what will happen. So basically, he advised me to say goodbye and get my affairs in order at the time, because he really didn't know. And I said, well, like, what are my chances? And he said, 50-50. It could go either way because it's everywhere. And if I snip the wrong vein or whatever is in there, that will be it. So, so of course, it's pretty devastating when you get that kind of a diagnosis, Michele, because nobody's prepared for that. And certainly not at 30 years old. So I got home, and it's a really weird feeling to go through that. And of course I got through it. And a couple of years later, I went into Emerge in Strathroy and said, I think I've got strep throat. And, I think I might need antibiotics for that. And he's like, Bolton. He says, have you had any surgeries in the past? I'm like, yes. Which one? Do you want the list? And he said, and I went through and, hysterectomy, gallbladder, teratoma. And he said, teratoma. He said, I studied your chart in med school. And I just looked at him and I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. And I thought I have to make light of this because this is just another surreal moment. And he said, that was quite a surgery. And I said, yeah, not a good time. He's like, no. Initially he said, I think along the lines of, that was quite a medical chart. And I said, yeah, that was not a fun surgery to go through, and I don't recommend it. So he said, how about those antibiotics? Can I fix my throat, please? So he gave me a script and all was good. But, fast forward to 2018, and I went into St. Joe's and for a routine mammogram, because that's, just checking. And they said, you need to come back, and started testing me for breast cancer. And when, you go from appointment to appointment through all of these situations, it was the same series of questions. Who's your emergency contact? Is your phone number? Where do you live? Any underlying conditions? What are your allergies? What medications are you taking? And on and on and on. And I just was really frustrated. So I came home in 2018 and thought, I need to fix this somehow. I was more frustrated, and at the time, it was more of a selfish solution for myself to fix it. But it quickly changed. That thought process quickly changed, because I thought, I can't be the only one going through this. There's got to be more people who are constantly struggling with medical communications. And how can we streamline this to solve it for people and relieve that pressure? Because you're so concerned about your own health that, you're worried about that. You're not worried about answering questions all the time. It's really frustrating, and it's not their fault. They need the right information to provide a diagnosis and treatment for you. But, when you're stressed out and you're worried and you're in pain and you're unsure of what's going on, and you get surprise diagnosis like that, you need a better way of handling those, because your mind isn't thinking clearly enough to maybe provide the correct information anyway. So I came home, and it took me about 15 minutes to design this prototype, and it just kind of went from there. So, I don't know. I think if I can help other people and bring trauma to a different level and turn it into something beautiful that
Mm,
can solve a huge problem in what I believe is out there for patients, caregivers, seniors, chronically ill individuals, and the healthcare system pressures, then yeah, let's do it. So that's what I chose to do. Yeah.
wow. I've got so many questions for you, and I do have some that I had people actually write in some questions that couldn't be here tonight. When you're sharing your story, Michele, what keeps coming up for me is your resiliency. And I really want to highlight that, because one of the questions that actually I had was, I mean, it really is about the card and how does this card work? But I want to tie it into this resilient conversation, because every time you had some emergency, you had to go. When you're sharing your story, you
Mhm.
share it from that perspective. Oh, here it is again. And here's something else. And then here's something else. And it almost looks like you have this innate ability or this innate strength within you to somehow have trusted that you would be okay. Now, I could be just putting that there, but I mean, there's a resiliency in being able to uh, get news like that, process the information. I mean, of course, you went through so many other things with your family, with your kids, but as you're sharing that story, I just keep hearing, okay, so that's just one other thing I need to work through then. This is just one other thing I need to get through. And resiliency is such an important, I don't want to say skill set, but I'm going to, because it is, when you really tap into that as a practice or as a skill, it actually can help you move through situations. It doesn't have to look good all the time, but it helps you, focus on wellness as opposed to illness.
And I think that's a great point, Michele. And I think also at the time, I remember when I had the diagnosis of teratoma, sitting on the edge of the bed and praying.
Mm,
When you are faced with your own mortality at any age, I think it brings a lot of things into perspective. There's a saying when people say don't sweat the small stuff,
mm,
and it's very true. The resiliency I think one finds is in the ability for the body to survive. You go into survival mode, that fight or flight
yeah.
feeling, and there is a selfish piece to that because you don't want to have pain. You don't want to be in pain. And there's another piece to it where the loved ones around you are also hurting. And you don't want to make them feel bad, and you're trying to protect them at the same time. But you're facing your own mortality, and nobody can do that for you. It's a very strange and difficult position to be in especially when you're young. It doesn't get easier, I don't think, as we get older, but you look at life very differently. I think that's where the resiliency comes in, and the commitment. You forge a discipline to look at the bigger picture and say, what is the worst thing that can happen? And I think that when you are faced with your own mortality, and that is the option you're really having to face, fear of failure of something, fear of embarrassment, or having people judge you, or all of that critiquing, it
Mhm.
falls away. It falls away because what have I got to lose? I've
Right.
already I've already faced saying goodbye. I've had to wave goodbye on my way to the OR to my family. So that's not a good time. I will never forget that.
I
Like
can't even imagine. I mean,
ever.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I've never had, I've had some,
yeah,
but nothing like you're describing, Michele. And
yeah.
the fact that having to go in and answer those questions. Like, here's the other thing. It's like, how many times do you have to go somewhere and tell the same thing over and over again
Yeah.
when you're hoping that there is a system? Like, don't you have that already? Why do you have to keep
Yeah.
asking me every
Yeah.
time I go? And so I can only imagine that, for the amount of time that you did go, that this would be, I almost want to say, and you had said it earlier, it's like, of all the things you have to go through, the thing that might tip you over is the simple thing of having
Yeah.
to keep saying the same thing over again.
And because, teratoma is not, it wasn't a common, diagnosis at the time, people were really curious. So they'd say, tell me about that. Tell me about that. And, there was a lot of pain associated in many ways, not just physical, that I really didn't want to go through again. And you kind of bury it and, you know, you just move on with life. And, I think I've done that for a very long time until, 2018, when I thought, okay, this is all really difficult again. I have to kind of face this again because I did bury it for a long time and I just wanted to move on. I just wanted to forget the pain and the trauma of that. And I think, there's a lot of people who have had a lot of traumatic situations and in their lives that they don't want to have to repeat every time they go into a medical appointment. And I think having my 911 kind of it helps ease that anxiety a little bit because you can enter anything you want on your profile and on your card to avoid having to repeat it and go through. Or if you don't want to put it on there at all, you don't have to. But for me, it's I think just saving the time of having to go through that conversation
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
is really helpful. And, my healing is also helping others. They, having gone through what I have, it's actually strengthened me and given me a really good um, mission to help others so they don't have to go through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can at all. I mean, it's for the better of society, obviously. I mean, initially it was selfish for myself because I was so frustrated, but it feels really good to help other people and it feels really good to make a difference.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can, if if I think about, of all the places you go and you keep having to say things, the medical field for me would be, the absolute best place to have that card. So
Yeah.
can you walk us through, you had this, epiphany, let's just say that, if we could have a central location for all this information and all I need to do is when I walk into my appointment and hand them this card, can you explain really, what is the membership? Um, when they get their card, is it accepted by the medical profession when you go into an appointment?
So that's a great question. So what I've done, Michelle, is I've used my card 5 times already and 3 times in one appointment as well. Um,
Okay.
and I have brought the card in, and upon registration, I show them the front of the card and I scan the QR code with my phone and I show them the summary. And they just
From
kind of
your phone.
from my phone and they just scroll up and they see all of the information that they would normally ask me individually because we all have a different medical profile. So what they're going to perhaps ask you about your health or your situation, medications you're on or allergies you may have will be very different than mine, obviously. So this allows them to see it and have consistent information at their fingertips wherever you go. So, you're entering this information on your profile after you register. When you're in you're happy in a calm state of mind, instead of trying to recall information in an emergency, or if you're in pain, or if you're bleeding, or you've broken something, or
Right.
whatever
Yes.
happens, you've entered the details that they might need quickly when you have the information handy, instead of carrying bags of medications with you or forgetting something, you know, people will register for the card. They go to the my911.ca, register for the service. Then, that generates their online emergency profile, and they go into that profile and they just walk themselves through the form that we've easily created for them to complete. It's very simple. And they enter the information that they're normally asked or that they want to share, regarding their personal profile. So the next time they do go to the doctor, if they're asked, what medications are you taking? What are the doses? What are the names? They've entered that information, from home when they've got it, easily available. They don't have to carry the bags of medications. That medication registry is easily available on their phone.
So when you're showing them your phone with that information, are they then inputting that into their system?
It depends, I guess, what they're looking for. If they need something, typically the appointment I did, yes, I didn't have a lot. He just needed a couple of things. So he was only entering a couple of things. I guess it depends what they're looking for and what they really need to have available to them for your situation. I'm not, we're actually updating the service as well, right now. So there's lots of great updates coming, but that is one of the pieces, is to export data. So they can, we can basically download a registry, a medication registry, or whatever we want to export and email to them or whatever. So, that is coming, that's forthcoming, but right now it's just a really great preview for them so that they can see the accurate information quickly.
Yeah.
And go from there. And the conversation changes. So the patient experience is more around, what are you struggling with right now? And what can we do to solve your issue today? We don't have to go back into the history to start talking about, what medications are you on and what, reactions have you had? What are your all of that's taken care of very quickly. And they're more focused on what are the solutions we can offer you today. And the conversation changes. It's better. It's much better. The patient experience is better. If we can save a minute or two here or there, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes for the healthcare industry, it adds up. And I think it makes their life a lot easier because they're stressed. Resources are limited, people are burned out. And I think this is a little bit of saving grace for them.
I would
Ultimately.
even add, Michele, because as you're talking, what comes up for me is, if you have to go, let's say you're capable, but you're in an emergency situation, and the frustration that people can feel just waiting. I mean, nobody really likes to wait, and everybody's got an emergency. And then when you have to answer all of those questions, when you could just pull it up, show it on your phone, you're making their life easier and yours, because you get to sit down a little sooner and hopefully get in a little sooner. And we often underestimate those certain situations and how stressful they can be, because when you're in it, and you
You're
just
in it.
you want to be dealt with first, and you're all of those things. And I just think about the ease that people can experience for themselves by providing that to that that medical provider, but also for yourself.
And it's true because, what happens with family members, they don't even sometimes know what their loved ones are on or what the allergies are, and they could potentially be life-threatening. So if that individual can't communicate and your significant other doesn't have that information accurate, that's pretty scary. If you think about it, that can be pretty devastating. And I think that allowing patients to have control over the information they wish to share provides them a little more empowerment with their healthcare journey. They have the ability to update their profile anywhere, anytime, obviously with an internet signal, but they can also help their loved ones with the awareness that they might need on their behalf if they are unconscious or they're in an accident and they cannot communicate,
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So that's, we can't plan an emergency. And I think having the emergency preparedness of just the emergency triage information is really important. You can put in there, on your card, whatever you like, past surgeries or, travel policy information, all sorts of things. But I think the initial purpose of this was to, ease and streamline communications to stabilize you or potentially save you in an emergency. And that's the way it started. And it's actually kind of
Mhm.
expanded from there. And we're adding all sorts of new things, according to, members who have said, can you do this now? Can you do this now? I'm like, yes, but it has to go through, it has to be, compliant and according to privacy and security and regulations. So as long as those core components are met, then I'm happy to take on any requests from members to say, can you add this or can we do this now? And, there's a wish list and I just keep adding to it and adapting and making it, better and better and better. So, but I think that the initial ability to ease the frustration and the anxiety that people may face is just more important than some may realize.
Yeah.
And, and it even went as far as if there's immigrants or individuals who speak English as a second language, then I really feel bad for the healthcare system and trying to struggle to help them when
Mm,
they can't perhaps understand them.
yes.
And from a patient perspective, that has got to be terrifying. So I think there's a lot of different ways this can be very helpful, not only for the patient and their loved ones, but the healthcare system.
Mhm.
So I think it's just really important for people to be prepared where, we have other things in our wallet that, handle a lot of different things, but we tend to overlook our health situation and take it for granted sometimes.
Yeah. It can be something that one day, someday,
Right. Yeah.
it's not it doesn't feel immediate, so it doesn't become, it's kind of like insurance. Nobody wants it, but they have it because just in case.
Yeah.
The difference for me with this is the cost, right? Because, for a membership fee, you get to have access to your own information that you have control over that then
Yeah.
you can give, right? So,
Yeah.
what is a membership fee right now, Michele?
So right now, when people register, what they're registering and paying for is that actual physical wallet card. So it's $44.99 to register for the service and to maintain your profile. So you also get the choice to pay either on a monthly basis or on an annual basis. So you can pay for the card and your subscription all at once via annual, or you can choose to pay that subscription after on a monthly basis. So monthly is $9.99.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And on an annual basis, it's $99 a year. So easy round numbers, pennies, literally pennies a day for 24/7, 365 emergency preparedness that, you get to control and regardless of where you are. So I think, we've got winter coming up, and if you're snowed in somewhere and you've forgotten some medication at home or you've, whatever, you can have that information with you and just go to the local pharmacy and have them help you out,
Mm, wow.
right?
So that, because my series is, igniting your confidence and having more fun, not to say that your situation has been fun in any way, shape, or form, but I'm a firm believer in finding the joy and the excitement in the
Mm,
things that you're doing. And I mean, clearly you've got an incredible mission. And
mm,
for those of us women out there that are looking to, kind of, not just kind of, but really it's like, okay, it's time. It's my time. I'm ready to ignite my confidence and have more fun or feel more joy or feel like I'm making a difference.
mm.
Some of the work that I do with my clients is really having them focus on three key ingredients, and that's clarity, courage, and commitment.
Yeah.
When you think of your story and what you've worked through, what was the one thing that you needed to be crystal clear about in order for you to know that this is what you were going to do?
That's a really great question. I think to be very clear on what is the ultimate end goal,
Mm,
starting with the end in mind and doing a bit of reverse engineering to get there. So for me, it was I want to streamline emergency communications for healthcare professionals, emergency responders, and myself. How do I do that? This is what I want. The prototype only took me 15 minutes to create it. It was the rest of the work to get it to market that was much more challenging for me than, than I originally expected. And that, I like to keep things simple. So I didn't, as I said to a friend of mine, I said, the joke is definitely on me because it was much harder to bring a very simple idea to market. But I think when people start with the end in mind, what makes them happy? What problem do they want to solve or feel they can contribute to a solution on? And if you find out what that end goal is, reverse engineer and work towards it, and just get very clear on what that goal is and keep that your focus. It's your North Star all the time. And for me, it's the patient experience, reducing patient forms that they have to fill out. Seniors, there are a lot of seniors who do not want to fill out or can't
yeah,
fill out patient forms everywhere they
yeah,
go. It's very challenging and it's very difficult and frustrating when you're not well or you're tired or you're just like you're fevered, and like there's so much that can obviously happen with people. But if you can reduce that burden of filling out forms and answering questions that can easily be addressed on the card, you know for me that was my North Star for sure. Everyone's got a different star
yeah,
they're looking
yeah.
towards,
I
right?
love how you say North
Yeah.
Star, because when I work with clients on this and chat with people about, get really clear. I like to call it the clarity advantage and unlock your pathway to power. Because really it's like get really clear on what you want and why you want it. And when I hear you sharing, Michele, your why is so strong. It is so the way that you care about people's experiences, it just exudes from you.
Thank
You
you.
always bring it back to how it's going to add value to somebody else. And that why, just so the north, like your north star, it shines
Shines bright.
from you. It does, it
It
shines from
shines
you.
very bright. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Because you know what? I think it's, usually someone's purpose in life comes to them through a personal experience, I find. I
yeah.
mean, I went forever, I had a friend ask me, what do you see yourself doing? And I just responded, I never know. Like I didn't know. I never knew what I wanted to do, really.
Mm,
And when this happened and it just kind of hit me, I was still kind of answering questions over and over. I'm like, this is my purpose. This is what I need to do. This is a much higher calling than what I originally planned for. It was just, I am basically the individual that is the tool to
yeah.
execute the solution. And I'm happy to do that because I know for me, when I use my card, it's easy. It's so easy.
Yeah.
And I think when, people get on to using their cards and registering, they will also experience the ease of use and be very happy with it.
So courage is the second ingredient, and it obviously you were courageous going through all the challenges that you've had, but there's also a lot of courage that comes from taking an idea, implementing it, and then sharing it with people, and wanting so badly for people to um you know, have something like this at their fingertips, but taking it to market, like you said, there's a challenge with that. There are things that you start doing that you maybe didn't think you would before because your belief and your why and your North Star is so strong. So what elements of courage, or what would you say about being courageous helped you? Or how can I say that? It's like, obviously you're courageous because you can see that, but if you were to break it down, what would you have said was the biggest step you had to take?
The biggest step I had to take, you know what, it's more around for me, because it's healthcare. It's, I'm very, very focused on protecting the
Hmm.
patient, protecting the data, protecting and safeguarding the service. And to make sure that, with all of those components of privacy, security, regulation, and compliance, those
Mm.
are the first pillars. Those are the first, because at the end of the day, it is personal information. Even though you're sharing what you actually want people to see to stabilize you or help you,
Yeah.
it's still safeguarding information and protecting patients and providing a good experience for people. Because you have to be courageous, I think, to be an entrepreneur anyway, because
Yeah.
it's not for the faint of heart.
Right.
And what I have found in the healthcare industry, I mean, naively, I was just trying, I'm gonna fix this,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you learn a lot. And there's a lot of research that has gone into it. There's a lot of conversations, there's a lot of learning. But I always kept the patient experience at the forefront because of what I went through. So I knew the end result. Again, it's that North Star. It's what is the end result? And there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be really a lot of roadblocks. But I think when your why is strong enough, you find a way to go over it, above it, around it, under
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's crisis creates opportunity, and challenges spark creativity, because you have to think of things differently, and you have to adapt and pivot and do all these different things to figure out how to get there. Because in my opinion, when it came to business or even personal, you know, it was, how can I do it?
Right.
And there's no, it's just, how is it going to happen? It's just a matter of when it can
Yes.
happen and how it can happen. There's no. To me, there's a will, there's a way. And
Yes. Yeah.
it's finding that way. And so it sometimes takes a little longer because you learn a lot about yourself in the meantime. But I think when you realize that you can do anything you put your mind to, literally, then, people are very, very, they have a lot more ability than they might realize.
Yeah, and courage is such an interesting thing because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, that you don't feel fear, but it isn't that. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's take your fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it becomes that practice. And we talked earlier about resiliency and um I can imagine that when you've started something like this, the courage it takes to actually want to be the keeper of people's information, right? So there's you finding and being courageous to move your mission forward. And then there's the honoring of people's information and wanting to safeguard it and help them be courageous in sharing that information. I kind of see that
Because
as
they're going to have to share it at some, like,
that's
in one
right.
way or another. They have to
Yes.
share it when they
Yeah.
need treatment. So they might as well have control over it.
Yeah.
And, I've been very fortunate to surround myself with individuals working with me on this mission who share the same core values I do. They share the importance of this work. They know how important this work is to me, and how many people it could affect and help. And I
Yes.
think because we're all aligned in those core values, it's made the world of difference too. So I like to align myself with people who feel as strongly about this service and the importance behind it as what I do. And they do. They
Yeah.
they they feel the same way. So I'm very, very blessed and fortunate that way, that they get it. They
Yeah.
completely understand why I'm doing what I'm doing and how important that is, um, for everybody, not just me. This isn't about me. This is about
Right.
This is about other people. I
Yes.
mean, obviously I'm benefiting from it, to have my own card, and I don't have to worry as much anymore about, who's going to be able to relay that information. And, um, so, but I think it's more about other people at this point. It's not about me. It's about protecting other people and making sure that they can be an advocate for themselves on their healthcare journey, or their caregivers can have an easier time in managing the information for that person, right?
Well, and
So,
the commitment level that it takes, because we talked about clarity, courage, and commitment is the other one. And I really hear that commitment to empower others to
yes.
advocate for themselves. And I don't know, but I know I've had some personal experiences where I feel that sometimes we think they're the ones that are going to give us all the information, when really it's we need to be our own best advocates. We've got to be able to care more about our health, our well-being, our information, and share that, because you can't rely on anybody else really to do it.
Well, I think the closest ones you have to you, your personal support workers and caregivers, they have a big job, and it's a very daunting job if they have more than one individual they're caring for. So I think having the ability to easily manage these profiles for those individuals allows them a little more freedom too, if they wanted to go away, with their family, and they had to put somebody else in place of their caregiving duties. They
Mhm.
could just say, here's the wallet card. Everything's on there. The caregiving instructions are even included. Then it allows them to have a little more independence and freedom, in their life, I think. So, um, you know, there's a lot of benefits in many, many ways that this can not only empower the patient, but other people with them,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Do you have like a mission? I mean, I know you obviously have a mission, but what is your number? How
I
many would people do you want cards in their hands?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Well,
Great.
yeah,
So
of
that's like
course.
what, 7 billion people on the
Yeah,
planet?
let's get everybody involved. Let's help
Great, great,
everybody. Why not?
great
This is
goal. Yeah, great goal. But
one of those big, hairy, audacious goals, right?
yes, yes,
What do they
yeah,
say? Dream big. It doesn't cost you anything to dream big. And
never.
when I was in studio with Grant Cardone, his one motto, he's got many, I'm sure, but he just said, dream big and stay ready,
Yeah.
and be prepared, and just keep dreaming big and do great things. We're here for a reason. I really firmly believe we're here for a reason, and everyone's reason and mission for being here is different. And
And it doesn't have to be huge, right?
it
Like
doesn't have to
and
be
and
huge.
I, that's then we're comparing, right? It's
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
everyone has their own mission and their own journey to run. And I've just been fortunate to find mine. And it took me a long time.
yeah,
It's been a lot of illness to get there, to kind of be hit on the head enough to say, have you got the message yet? So, I picked up on it, but everybody has a different mission. And you're right, it doesn't have to, it can be, as like, I'll give you an example.
mhm,
My mom, for example, always just wanted to be a mom. That was her career. And
mm,
we are so blessed to have had such amazing parents. Like, she truly just loved being a mom. She still does, of course.
yeah,
But, she just encompassed that whole role. And we were so, so lucky to have a great mom. And that was her mission in life.
yes,
And, you know, everyone's is different. And when you find it, I think there's another saying, you're born twice, the day you're born and the day you find out why you were born.
right. Oh, I
What a
like
gift.
that.
What a gift, and when
Yeah.
you find it, because I think a lot of people struggle with, well, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? What is, that's a big question for a reason. People want to know why do they get up every day?
Exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
drives them to get out of bed? And like, I'm usually up at 5 and at the gym for 6.
Yeah.
So, that's not something a lot of people probably enjoy
Nope.
doing, but that starts my day, is to get up and do a good workout. It's my me time. It's quiet. Obviously, not many people in the
Yeah.
gym,
Yep.
but it gives me that quiet time to just to kind of get the blood flowing and get ideas running through my head and relaxing a little bit. I've always
Yeah.
loved working out, and that's my time. And then I can start my day.
It's funny as you're talking there, Michelle with one L, and I am Michelle with one L, because
Yeah.
I'm an early riser too. I mean, 4 o'clock, anywhere between 4 and 5, I'm up. Usually working out by 5 or 5:30. And I would say that for me, that sets the tone for my whole day. So the meditation, the working out, I listen to, uplifting podcasts or YouTube videos of, people who are uplifters themselves or want to make a difference in the world. And, when I think of, I'll say my tagline, but really my mission is to help women unleash their potential and design their ideal career with passion, purpose, and possibilities. And I
Mhm.
know sometimes we use those words like it's kind of a cliche or
Yeah.
buzzwords, and they sound great, and they are. Um, my whole life I've been a possibility thinker. Well, what if I could do this? And what if I did this? Or if I, what is my purpose in life? Like, if you're not asking that question, you don't even need to have the answer. But if you've got the question, it's like
Uh,
you're out there, you're exploring, you're seeing what else could be done better or different. And what is passion? Because if you're not lit up
yeah.
every day, if you don't feel like you're going, and I mean, think about this, whether you're an entrepreneur in your own business or you are in a job, if you are there and you cannot find something to feel purposeful about or passionate about or see some other possibilities every single day, you are missing out on an opportunity for most of your day, and that is just non-negotiable to me.
Yeah, and and some people are very happy doing what they do, and that's okay. Like, that's their passion
Purpose and
and
passion, yeah.
purpose and everything. Everyone's, I think, is very different. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. It can be just making the difference in your household, your community, um, anywhere you go. Is, treat others with kindness. Everyone is struggling with something,
Yeah.
and if there's a way that we can spread a little bit of joy and relief and provide a little less anxiety and frustration for others, in whatever way we choose to do it, I think there's a purpose in that.
Yeah.
It it doesn't it doesn't have to be, massive, but when you treat others, it doesn't cost you anything to smile
Yeah.
and say hi to others, and just treat others with kindness and see how you can help out, not just at Christmas, but all year.
All year. Yeah.
It's how you can bring yourself forward, to help others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I love the conversation, and there's nothing like, two women or however many women getting together and have these empowering conversations, because I really believe in supporting one another, uplifting one another.
Mm.
And, from my perspective, I know that I'm going to be filling out that membership card. And I will be inviting and encouraging other people to do the same thing. And,
Thank
if
you.
there's anything else, we can, maybe we can revisit some of this, but
Yeah, no, people
yeah,
can go to the website, my911.ca. They can sign up for the newsletter, because it's a quarterly newsletter. I don't want to like inundate everybody's inboxes with newsletters every month, but it's just quarterly. And but yeah, join us in social media. Love to get people involved in the conversation. And if anyone has any questions, Michelle, if you have questions, if anyone does,
yep.
you can contact me through the website or info at my911.ca. Happy to talk to anybody. and answer any questions they might have around the service, or how, even for companies, right? Because there's, companies can buy this for their employees. I had a company purchase it for their employees for Christmas last year.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, so there's lots of opportunities to show the caring and supporting aspect of the health and wellness for, employees and colleagues. And I think it's a great gift idea for seniors,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
seniors, they don't need anything, right? And if you can, provide them with, a gift card or the wallet card for their health all year long,
Yeah.
that doesn't just last at Christmas, right? But
Yep.
it's a great gift for people.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was great.